Seth, it is really hard to believe that we are recording this to be released in the month of November. We are 2 months away from the start of 2026. Somehow we're only 3 months away from August, which is really confusing to me. The time gap of August to November, I think, is the least believable 3 month gap in the calendar year to me.
It
I
is.
don't know if you have a similar feeling or not. Like, September to December makes total sense. July to October, maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I'm like, okay. August to November doesn't work in my brain. That's three
Same.
months apart.
Same. It just feels so different.
Well, you know what does work in my brain, Seth? Is our favorite question. What would you do in this particular situation? Seth, there are two projects that need a lead contractor.
Oh, God.
Which one would you prefer to do? Would
Okay.
you want to be the lead contractor on a kitchen renovation or like an outdoor deck project?
Outdoor deck.
Yeah?
Outdoor deck. Yeah, because I just have no hope in the kitchen. Like, the outdoor deck, I feel like I could make it sturdy by just throwing more material at it. Like, I'll be like, oh no, another post goes here. We're just playing it safe. Another post. But, like, I don't know how to do that in the kitchen. And also, I feel like if there's like a couple places where like every board doesn't align, that's fine. But in the kitchen, like if your cabinets are all off center and they're one is lower than the other, like that's a disaster. So I'm going deck.
Okay. That's interesting that given your hesitancy about construction, apparent hesitancy about construction, he opted for the option that does require like building structure and not just putting things inside existing structures. So interesting there. And for that reason, I'll go kitchen. I have undeserved confidence based on the number of renovation shows that I've watched that I could figure it out.
I could demo one. Easy.
Yeah, easy. Easy. Except, Seth, where do you take all the stuff that you demo out of a kitchen?
I have no idea.
What are you going to put it in? Your Honda Civic?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that part in. On the deck.
Yep, there you go. Is there any like renovation that you've done recently or that you're interested in doing soon that you're like, I think I could do this myself? Or I definitely know I can't do this myself.
So here I denied. Here I was like, we're doing the deck, but our deck needs like a little bit of work, and I was like, I just don't want to do it. Like maybe I probably could. But there's just like a couple boards that need to be replaced. It needs to be power washed, like sanded and stained, and I could do it, but I hate doing it so much. I sanded and stained it the last time. This is like maybe like 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
my dad and I together put in 40 hours to staining our deck. Like it was like a week's worth of time. Like of a full-time job. And I'm just like, I'm not doing it anymore. Like it was terrible. So we paid somebody to do it.
And did it turn out the way you hoped?
Jonathan, the first person we paid took our money and then didn't do anything for 4 months and then was finally like, I don't want to do this either. So he gave us our money back. And
Okay, well, at least that happened. Oh my gosh.
and then yes. And then last week we've hired another person, but we have not scheduled anything yet. But he seems more reliable.
Okay. Just better vibes from the start. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild how you have to like make those determinations on, you meet someone and like welcome them into your home and like, here's the thing you're going to break and then fix. And in that like 8-minute interaction, you're supposed to determine whether or not only you trust them to do that work, but whether or not you're going to pay them so much money to do it.
Yes. And honestly, this guy did, like, when he came, I got a good vibe from him. But then he just kept being like, I'm going to get to it next week. I'm going to get to it next week. to get to it. And I'm like, when are you going to do it? And then he was finally like, I don't want to do it. I was like, yeah, I figured that out by now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I should have just done it.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, you can get that deck project contractor experience. Then you can do more decks.
Yeah. More decks. Okay, so how do I sit? I'm locked in.
Well, getting into our readings for this week, Seth, there's this really interesting theme I think can be most closely summarized with the theme of resurrection. Again, in the time of year where it feels kind of like we're just piecing together some stuff, the last bits. I mean, we're at the end of year C, so it's like this really feels like not the bottom of the barrel, but it's like, oh man, like this week we got to get Haggai in there and just get those verses in. So the gospel reading from Luke is the passage where the Sadducees were asking Jesus about the resurrection, and if you don't remember, the Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection because they were Sadducee. Because they couldn't be happy because they didn't have the resurrection to look forward to. And they asked him the question about, hey Jesus, if there are 7 brothers and the first one marries a woman, then he dies. And as is the custom, the second brother marries the same woman,
inherits
and he dies.
The wife.
Yeah, basically. Goes all the way. Poor choice of words.
Wait,
goes all the way through the. I'm gonna stick with it. Goes all the way through the 7 brothers, and then the woman dies, and they're like, "Who is she married to in heaven?" And Jesus says that essentially you're missing the point. Like, like you're playing checkers. I'm playing 4-dimensional chess. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them are alive. And some of the other passages are about this idea of resurrection, about even the restoration of the temple. And I'm curious, Seth, thinking back to this like home renovation perspective, if you have any favorites, this is the time to shout them out. But what do you think of when you think of the idea of like a house having good bones?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think generally like a house that doesn't creak, the way like the corners are sort of square, or at least like they look square from afar. Like I think maybe I've talked about this on the podcast. My superpower is I can tell immediately if a floor is not level.
You just immediately walk in and just fall down or something?
Yeah, like I know. I'm like, it's not level in here. So like so one of the things of like a house with good bones is a level floor. I also think like houses that are quiet inside like feel, I don't know, it like feels like they're well made.
Yeah. I think that's part of it for me, is like this idea of solid construction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like less about, I don't know, less about the things that you can just easily like paint over.
Yeah. You've probably noticed some unlevel floors in our house when you've been here. We tried our best to fix some things as we replaced floors on our first floor of our house. But it is really true. It's like, I think a lot of house flippers try to challenge this, but it's like you can only take your perspective on like just throwing more material at a solution to make it work. You can only do that so much. Like you can only put so many layers of paint on drywall that's crumbling, or you can only put so much carpet on floor that's not level or not safe to stand on. And
you could add another post to the deck.
You could always add another post. We love a pillar. We love a beam. But when I appreciate a home renovation or like work being done not even just in a home, but in a place too. I appreciate work that seems to reflect the spirit of the house or the spirit of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
It's like, this is true to, even if it is modern or updated or a different style, like, it still feels like it belongs here. I'm not blowing the, ornate wooden, like, framing around all these windows to just put floor to ceiling glass walls on this 150-year-old house. I might put new glass and new windows in those, but I'm going to work to, clean and update these moldings to, like those kinds of choices. I feel like I really appreciate. And this is the idea that I want to bring to resurrection, Seth, because I think how we often talk about resurrection is everything's going to die and then it will be new again. And I think there's some merit to at least some dimensions of that kind of message, maybe. That, like, the notion that all things will be new. But I think the how feels interesting to explore a little bit more. And I'm curious about a future that doesn't say, man, all this stuff that you've cherished, that you've built, that your family members and friends have been a part of, it's just going to all go to hell in a handbasket, burn up, and there's going to be something new coming. We're trading in the, the centuries-long family home for a cookie cutter in the suburbs. That doesn't feel right. What feels right, I guess, is more along this idea of renovation, restoration, of taking what was originally so good about all of this and letting that be accentuated, be highlighted again, and continuing to build on that which remained to be good and solid and well built from the beginning. And so I don't know if that resonates with you, Seth. This is just kind of something I'm tossing around a little bit. But if it does at all, I'm wondering what those good bones in the world of faith and justice are. Those things that stand out to you is like, what are the things that maybe in seeing a restoration project of the whole world, where we have the ability to co-labor with the divine to build a new earth, what's that going to be built on that maybe we can already catch a glimpse of now?
Okay, just gonna start firing. I was like, I got a lot of thoughts, so we're just gonna see what happens. But I think one of the first thing that comes to mind that the resurrection will have in abundance is diversity. Like, I'm talking about, like, just people who are so different in, like, every way that you can imagine, and that in the resurrection, those differences won't be demonized. That our differences can be celebrated in the resurrection, and that we won't have to. That in the resurrection, people won't have to hide them. Like, they can show them off. They can show what makes them different. And I think we've talked a little bit about this. Like, we see glimpses of that today, and certainly looking at places where diversity is celebrated. And again, kind of trying to create those spaces and push for more is part of co-laboring with God to bring the sort of a resurrection about. And the other thing that comes in mind is I love being outside. Like, I'm a little too pale to be outside as much as I want to be outside. But I think, like, somehow in the resurrection, I don't know, it's going to be outside somehow to me. Like, nature's going to come with us in the resurrection. Yeah. All the animals and the butterflies and even the insects, like, they're going to come with us. The huge giant redwood trees and the mustard seeds and all that stuff is somehow going to come with us. So to me, I think, like, not only just being in nature right now, but also trying to protect nature and even planting trees and gardens and tending them in ways that are like ecologically beneficial. It's just like another way that I think like we can see or maybe glimpse what the resurrection might look like, and again help to bring it about. I don't think people get sunburned in the after the resurrection though. Just
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I hear in that another like claim to celebrate diversity too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you name it that way, because it's diversity is not, I mean, it's come to mean so much, like at its core diversity is just reflective of what exists. It is reflective of difference. And even in spaces that don't feel particularly diverse from one dimension or another, there is diversity there. I think that diversity is threatening to a world that wants to force people into categories, especially categories of like us and them. But when you talk about how our world biologically works best, it's when there is difference. It's when there is mutuality, when there are those symbiotic relationships where organisms benefit from being around one another, even though they're not the same. It allows for greater security in our ecosystems too, because there's not such significant dependence on one crop or one species. And I think that's part of what has been challenged for us now is we have resisted a diversity that is part of our world to the point that our world becomes at risk because we're so interested in sameness and monotony, maybe in some ways security. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there are going to be cubicles in whatever we're going to build. I hope not. Hope there's a lot more outdoor space. Creeks and oceans and old gnarled trees and new moss growing on them. Like, it just feels like that kind of life is possible and worth preserving. Like something available and accessible to us now that is worth exploring. And I think that's where I hope we land, Seth, is not only recognizing that these things are available now, but really considering if we can parse through to these foundations, to these good bones, what are the things that we then want to build on them? And you talked about this a little bit already in thinking about not only, am I just sitting and admiring an old tree, but I'm planting a new one. It's very Lutheran of you. I think about that too. In this space where we are, if we're bringing forward this celebration of our differences, we're not just acknowledging that as a fact. We're exploring and continuing to be curious about who we are and who our neighbors are, and forming bridges and bonds and continuing to build relationships and communities with each other across and with full regard for those differences, not dismissing them. Like, we're still building on what we're celebrating. It very much feels like that already but not yet dynamic. It's like this is here and accessible, and there's more that we can do to celebrate it. What are the things, Seth, that you want to build on this foundation that we've been talking about? What do we want to build on these good bones?
No, I just want to build somewhere where everyone feels like it's home to them. Where everyone feels safe. Like you talked about this need for security that we have. Like, what if in the resurrection people weren't worried about that? Like, what if in the resurrection people weren't worried about what they were going to eat? And like who might harm them? And both people, and I was talking about animals, so even animals too. What does it look like for people to not take like risks in which and maybe to say like they know that when they do it'll be a leap, but it'll work out for them? That doesn't mean that it's not still scary and a little uncomfortable. But that, like, they don't have to worry about living with the consequences forever. And they don't have to worry about what happens if it goes wrong.
I mean, you're talking about building a kind of security that goes beyond, like, dependence on particular outcomes. Secure enough footing to launch from and, like, safe havens to exist in.
Yeah,
that allow people to have the amount of anxiety that the lilies of the field or the birds of the air have. Right? It's that I don't think I like that perspective a lot when you think about Jesus's language there. It's like it's not saying, forget about all the things that make you worry. It's like, no, in the world that I'm trying to build, you can have as many worries as a flower in the field does, and still be as beautifully adorned, and still be as deeply rooted, and still being able to soar and sing like the birds do. That feels really appealing to me too. This idea of building spaces where folks can feel secure, they can feel strong, and feel able to try and able to fail.
Exactly.
And still be surrounded by the kind of diverse community that they're still an essential part of.
That, I don't know. I would give so much for that right now. And I do find a certain amount of hope thinking that, like, okay, I'm working for it now, but that it will come to fruition one day. And when my efforts seem like they're pretty fruitless, I do take some hope in that.
One step at a time, Seth.
One step at a time.
Can I pray for us?
Please do. I'd love that.
God of new beginnings and steadfast love, when we see ruins, you see foundations for renewal. When fear clouds our vision, you breathe courage and promise. You call us to build again, not temples of power, but communities of peace. Renew our hope, steady our hearts, and teach us to sing a new old song of justice and joy. Mindful of the many names by which your children cry out to you from all over the world, I pray in the name of the resurrected one, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.